Has anyone ever tried netting a mackerel yet? Don't, because the net will die. You won't win. Sorry, I just want to work this out. I got it. Cool. Sorry, folks. Sorry, guys. I'm professional, aren't I? These are the new ones. Okay, good. That's not recording, but it might be recording. I don't know. Can you see it from your side? Yeah, okay, good, cool. So anyhow, guys, getting back to the closure, 1st of February to the 21st of February, 1st of March to the 21st of March, then it's open. Mackerel, I don't know if you know about the new rules on mackerel. I have the brochures downstairs. I will get you grab one on the way out if you don't mind from the fisheries. So it's one Spanish mackerel per person. You have 5 guys in the boat. You're only allowed to keep 2 in the boat. That's it, max. Okay. In Spanish spotted mackerel's 5 per person though. Okay. They both taste the same, similar mackerel, Spanish and spotty. Some people have preference on taste of the two. I like both of them. So spotties I really like actually, more. And there's no ciguatera side effects with spotties as far as I know. So if you get a big Spanish mackerel, say around 20 kilos, like we got one, Jack got one last year. I think it was a metre 48 or something like that. It was about 22 kilo anyhow. My son Jack, and we kept that and we ate it. I was a bit sceptical about it because it's big fish, like this deep, it's quite a big fish. But it was fine. There was no side effects. So for us, it's a gamble. So it was too good of meat on it. But if you get a big one, it's up to you guys if you're going to let it go or keep it. But generally speaking, most mackerel up to 17 kilo, 35 pounds is fine in Spanish mackerel. So ciguateras. Has anyone ever had ciguatera poisoning in the shop here? No, Stewie's had it downstairs. If you want to talk to him about it, he'll tell you about it. But it does come back. It stays in the system forever. Okay, let's get on to the job. So we're going to start spotted mackerel. So welcome along tonight. Spotted mackerel. Has anyone here not caught a spotted mackerel? I think I asked it before, I think, on float lining. Okay, so float lining is probably the best method of catching spotted mackerel. It's generally done at anchor. You need to find out where your spots are that holding the bait and holding the fish, whether it be a palmy, mermaid, gravel patch out the front here. It doesn't matter. You need to know where you're going to go to that morning, because if you've ever been down to Palm Beach, which most of you probably have, or Mermaid, in peak mackerel time, and you think you're going to go early, leave at 3:30 at the boat ramp, get down at 4:30, there's already about 30 boats on most of the pinnacles. It's just the way it is. So what I normally do is I will definitely troll first. I'll put out some baits and I'll slow troll around the pack. And I'll try and look for bait while I'm slow trolling outside of my normal marks that may have boats already on there. If there's no boats on my mark, I'm going to go straight there and anchor up, okay, if there's bait there. So I'm just going to tell you what to do before you start to do it. So that's the first progress. So, and I always troll in a anti-clockwise direction, and I start on the western side of the reef, and I go south and then up northeast and then around to the north and back around. Why do I go that way? Because for me it works better than going clockwise, and annoys the people who are all going clockwise. No, I'm just joking, but it does actually. But I just find for me it's a better way to catch fish. Has anyone ever found that before? Trial one way versus the other? Has anyone never had that experience? Try it. If you're not catching fish going that way, try going the other way. Or try going, well, because you're doing a big loop, you're sort of getting the feel across from east to west or west to east. Because a lot of time they'll bite going across the current and not into the current for some reason, or with the current. But when you do a 360 around the whole pack of boats, you have the opportunity to see which way they're biting as well. So if they're biting on that spot, going that direction, that's the direction you do every pass. You don't change that direction because they're stacked there and they're facing into that current or whatever it is in that way, and that's the way they want the bait presented if you're trolling, okay? But anyhow, we're getting back to the cast. We're actually float lining now. So I do the big lap around. I mark a few spots where there's fish. If there's one of my previous spots has got no boats on it, I'll just go straight there. If there's bait there, I'll anchor up. I don't put too much anchor rope out because if you ever been mackerel fishing and had long ropes out and people get their fish go around that rope, on another boat in front of you or beside you, and you've got too much rope out, it'll just cut your anchor rope off. The braid just goes straight through it. Even a 10mm rope doesn't matter. So don't have too much rope out if you don't mind. Unless it's rough, you might put a bit more out. So that's another thing. So we've anchored up in our position now, and we need to have our rods prepared. I always prepare mine the night before, and my suggestion is with spotty mackerel, if you're going to use half pillies or whatever you're going to use, which I'll show you shortly, I would have at least a dozen, if not 15 rigs made up, pre-made up. I keep them on a little ladder system, like this little thing here. I'll pass this around and open up and have a look. They're Japanese, so they're quality, but I wrap my rigs around that, and all my rigs are ready to roll. And so I have normally, if I'm float lining, specifically float line, I'll take 6 rods out. It's just 3 people fishing, or even 2 people fishing. And I fish with 4, and I have 2 ready to go straight away. And if I have a chance, because when they come on, they come on. If I have a chance, I will quickly retie the 2 that busted off somewhere along the way, or they get pigtaily. So you get one fish, sometimes your wire becomes pigtaily. They won't bite on it after that. You have to rechange to a new rig. So sometimes you get 2 or 3 fish out of a rig before it goes in that direction. But it's my suggestion is to, if it's pigtaily, you quickly just put that rod in the rack or down the floor or whatever, and grab the other rod and bait it up and throw it straight out. You've got to keep it going, because they're going to go, well, they do swim around in big packs anyhow. They swim around sometimes anti-clockwise, but they will move away from your boat. But if you can hold them there at your boat, and that's why I use 4 rods. I've got lots of bait in the water, and I'm always cutting up bait. I can keep them on my ground for a little bit, quite a bit longer than what most guys do. And the pros do the same thing. You see them forever. There's a little bit of shimming up little bait, and they're always checking their lines and rebaiting and checking. They don't stop. And that's how you catch fish. If you throw your lines out there to sit there and wait and don't do much, it's not going to really happen for you unless they're really thick. Okay. So how do we do our rigs? So there's actually 2 or 3 different types of rigs that you can do. It depends on the wire that you want to use. So some of our customers like to use single strand wire, and they do a little haywire twist, which is a little bit of an art to doing a good haywire twist. You've got to keep it short, not too long. The shorter it is, the better it is. And single strand wire, we're using anything because it's so thin, you can actually go up to about 58 pound for float line for spotties, because it's thinner than 18 pound 7-strand wire. It's very thin. It's a little bit stiff though, so the bait will sit fairly stiff in there, but because you've got a haywire twist on the end, the bait will still be quite flexible, okay? That's 27 pound single strand wire. I'll pass that around. You can have a feel of it, just to poke yourself. But single strand wire is quite popular. The next type you can use is plastic coated wire. So if you're going to use plastic coated wire, I wouldn't use over 27 pound for float lining, because it's just 18 or 20 pounds really good, 18, 20, 27. That's how they come. Anywhere in that bracket, it's really good in plastic coated wire. Do I use black over silver? I prefer black wire over silver wire for if it's plastic coated. I'm going to pass one of these rigs around here. So this is actually that one, wrong one. That's a double one. This one here, and that's a double one too. Still got me 2 of the same. You grabbed the wrong one. Sabotage. Okay, I'll pass around the 7-strand version. So 7-strand, you can do up to maybe 40 pound wire, but the best again is 18 and 27 pound. That's how it comes. And it's quite thin as well, you'll see that. I'll just undo this and I'll pass it around. If you make your rigs up exactly like this, so in your bag, you have my favourite hook, which is a 3.0 it's a Shinto, which is a BKK hook. They're really, really good. Very, very sharp. They're Japanese wire, and they work. So this one here is actually snelled on with 7 strands, so you can actually snell 7-strand wire. Okay. So we're talking about the Shinto hooks in that little plastic box, 3.0 hook. So this hook the guys who use is actually a slightly different hook, but that's my go-to hook. And the swivels are in your bag too. They're a little tiny black size, number 8 or 6, I think, one of the 2. I'll pass this around. So you'll see the length of the wire, folks, is very short. That's the length there. Can you see that? You can't see it from the wire, but it's around about a total of 250 mil from the top of the swivel to the end. It's strictly just a bite trace. It's not a grab trace. Okay? So you will get the odd Spanish mackerel bites you off. I haven't had many spotties bite me off, but as I said, sometimes it'll only last the one spotty. So the rig coming around, you'll see, so if you're doing a haywire twist, you do the haywire twist with single strand. If you're using 7-strand or nylon coated, you can either crimp the bottom on down here on the hook, or you can do just a snell knot, which the guys have done here, and they crimp the top part. And on the top part, the boys have been doing this, I'd make my loop a bit smaller, but they use a Flemish eye loop, which means you go through the swivel or through the hook, and you go through one more time again, and then you go through the loop twice that you just made. And then pull that down tight onto the hook and then crimp it. And all the weight's on that knot and not the crimp. So if you do a dodgy crimp job, as many people do, it won't pop out, it won't just pull out. Because it's all about how good your rigging is, guys. Obviously we sell these too. If you're worried about rigging up, we do sell them, but you should learn to rig your own up because it's much cheaper and it's a good practice to do. And it's a good feeling when you've done your own rigs and caught your own fish on your own rigs. A bit like tying a lure up. It's tying a fly or something. So there's a couple of those coming around. So I'm going to present one of these into a bait now. Actually, I might just grab one of those back if that's okay. Sorry. Can I grab that one back? Have you guys had a look yet? You had a look yet. That's cool. Okay, I'm going to do 2 baits up and pass the baits around. So just a couple of pointers, guys. The hooks need to be super sharp, okay? The swivel needs to be super strong. These are not crappy swivels, these are good ones. So they're around about, that little tiny thing's around about, I think 12 or 18 kilos. So as long as you're not using 50-pound braid and got the drag locked up, that won't pop. So please always remember in all your fishing, right, something is the weakest link. So whether it be the fish's mouth at the bottom end, if you put too much weight on, you can pull the hook out, okay? You can rip through its lip or rip through its mouth if it's not properly hooked. Second thing is your knots. If your knots aren't strong, as that's the next weakest point, it'll break at your knot or your knot will just slip undone. Crimping, same scenario. If your crimping's not done right, the crimp will pull out, okay? But if you do good, if you're well hooked and you've done good crimps and good knots, the next thing to give is either the rod breaks because the line's too strong for the rod, or the tackle will fail. So the hook will bend out because the line's too strong for it, or the swivel will snap because the line's too strong for it. And that's where people lose a lot of good fish. So what does that mean? It means don't do your drag up too tight. Simple as that. If your line's running out, hey, sometimes you get spooled. Well, I got spooled, good bit of a buzz. But you're better off doing that than actually tackle failure because you locked your drag up too tight. I'd rather get spooled. Because you're never going to get it back anyway. You're going to pop something, whether it be break a rod or break something in the tackle. So that's about tackle failure. So pilchards, we're just using WA pilly, okay? And anything from that size up to big size, all good. Obviously, I cut it in half. And I cut it at a little bit of an angle. And some days, for those of you who have done a lot of float line fishing, some days you'll learn that they'll go the head end and they don't want to know about the tail end. And other days it's the other way around. They want the tail section, not the head end. So you need to put 2 of each out and see which ones are getting the most bites. So be observant all the time. And whichever end is not getting the most bites after you've caught a couple of fish, and it's statistically happening on that particular, the head end, say, the tail end, I'll chop it up into about 3 or 4 pieces, and that becomes my burley. So I just keep chopping all the tail sections up, chopping up, chopping up, chopping up. And I've got a heap of heads ready to go on my bait table. That's how I do it. If they decide to go in the tails, then you could be in a bit of trouble if you've got no bait left. But just always keep it a little bit in reserve, okay, just in case they switch. But they won't switch normally. And sometimes if they're hungry as, they don't care, they'll just take anything. If that's the case, anything that's soft or the pilchar's a bit damaged, I'll just cut the whole pilchard up and use that as burley. You've got to keep burleying. So for those of you, again, who've done this sort of fishing, you'll know, as soon as you throw the burley in the water, I always make sure I throw at least 1 or 2 lines out with my burley. I do it about every I know, I guess every 3 minutes I'll throw another handful out, and I'll just quickly throw 2 lines out with it. I leave the bar arm open on my spin reel. I use mainly spin reels. Leave the bar arm open, and I just let it free fall with the burley. Obviously going to be a little bit slow because it's got to flick the line off the reel, but it's not too bad. It actually goes down quite well with it. And if they're in the vicinity, they're going to smash it straight away. Okay. If you have your line sitting out there and you throw the burley out, sometimes that'll work too. But then you get days where the current's ripping and the burley's going that way, and your lines are sort of too high up because they're sitting in the current flapping away or whatever. Or you might just throw your line out and the burley's sort of taken off from the line because the line's peeling off the reel and it can't catch up. So in that case, you need to throw your burley at the front of the boat or to the side, whichever way the current's going. You have to work that out. In burley wise, other than that, if the current's going the opposite way to the boat facing with the wind, that's a real pain in the backside ones. So, because the guy behind is going to get all the fish, right? You're casting that way and it's going that way. If you can fish out the front of the boat, if you've got a centre console, that's fine. But if you haven't got a centre console, you've got a half cab or something, it might be a bit difficult in that situation. For those of you who understand about, like they call it painter's hitch, I think it is. It goes on the front of your boat onto a bollard or something. But you can actually pull your boat around to face the other way by bringing the boat, a rope down further towards the back of the boat from the bow. But you need to be really careful. You've got really strong current, it can get a bit dangerous, especially if you've got a little boat. Or you've got a bit of chopper, it's a bit dangerous too. But it'll actually swing the boat around to the way you're fishing against the wind sort of thing, a little bit. Has anyone done that before? Best way to start learning about do that is do it in the river, okay? And play in the current and play with the anchored rope, bringing it around a little bit. And you actually have like another bridle rope from the front of the boat to the back of the boat, and it's on the bridle, if that makes sense. And the painter's helper or something it's called. It's got a nickname, and it's like a bat wing sort of thing, and it actually slides on there, and you wrap the rope around it, and that locks it into position somewhere along that loose piece of rope down the side of the boat. Not too loose so you get caught in the props, just semi-loose and sort of follows the gunnel of your boat around one end to the other. Anyhow, that's another thing. Okay, so I'm using the head section. I just do 2 things. I either go through the eye or through here and out through there. But through the eye's not too bad a thing. And then I'll just go through the bottom part down here, near where I've cut it off, but I want to make sure that the length of the wire is not too much different to the length of that. So I don't want it right down here because it'll curl up too bad. So the closer you can keep the hook to the eye, the less that's going to curl in the current. It won't bend up like that sort of thing too much. Does that make sense? So don't have too big a gap between where you went through to where the hook's sitting. You all know that bait mate stuff. If Masako's watching here, can you please get me some bait mate or elastic thread from downstairs? Thank you. I was talking to that so they know what I'm talking about. So what bait mate is, it's like a elastic thread. Has anyone ever used that on their baits at all? It's really good stuff. So the fish can't see it. It's like nearly invisible. It's UV as well, generally speaking. But you put your line on. I'll show you actually on the tail section. The tail section's the hardest one to keep straight. So what you do is go down through the hard part and actually through the bone. When you thread it through, hold the fish on that finger and push down your thumb on your middle finger, okay? And then with your thumb again, push down between that finger and that finger so you don't stab yourself. And go through like that. I just stabbed myself. Oh, thank you, Masako. There we go. She's got it. She saw me. Well done. I'm glad you saw me. Thanks, son. So I'll show you how to use this stuff in a sec. So we pull it through. When we pull the line through, it's really important that you don't split the flesh on either side of the line coming out. If you split the tail, it just doesn't work. You throw it in the water for burley, okay? So you've got to keep it so that you don't split the tail at the end here. Next thing you do is just put the hook in like so, like that. And then the problem we've got now is that because that's offset, it spins in the current. If you have a little bit of current, it'll spin. If there's anything spinning, they don't know about it, unless they're really hungry. So you can't have any spinning bait. So what you do then, you use this stuff. Let me put my glasses on for a sec, sorry. Let's quickly do this. So it's an elasticized, like sort of flossy stuff, if that makes sense. This is actually quite a thick one, but anyhow, that's all right. Go back to here. So you just start it off and wrap it round, round, round. Oops. Don't take too much off the cob. Just go round, round, round and work your way back up towards the top. And you can actually go right to the top so that the trace is actually right at the top of the fish, if that makes sense, of the tail. Pull it, just snap it off and finish it off. And it just sort of locks itself in. It doesn't even do any of that. Now, if I was a fish, I can see that. I can see the stuff on there. But in the water, you don't really see it much. It goes that translucent colour, that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's like UV style. And but the bait sits straight. There's no, oh, it does stick out a little bit. Nothing like before though. So just have a look at that. You'll see what I mean. You just wrap it around, okay? Really, really good for holding. If you're really bad at putting gang hooks in, baits, that's really good for that too. Not everyone can put gang hooks on properly either. Okay, so any questions on the single hook rig? All good? All good? Next one, my favourite. Oh, here. Okay, this is deadly. You should all learn to do a 2-hook snelled rig. Okay? Has anyone ever used 2 hooks on spotties? You have? Okay, so 2 good things about it. One is they don't get as pigtaily as the other one because that top hook's normally at the top of the mouth, the other one's down his gills. That first one part going around now, probably about 80% of the time, the hook is right down in its gills. It's actually in its gills. And that's why it gets pigtailed, because they're biting and it stuffs up the wire. Okay, pigtail just means the wire goes all bent like that and it looks terrible. This one here does happen, but not as much. The beauty of 2-hook rig is obviously it's much easier to hook up a pilly. So I'll do this down for you as well and pass it around. So what do we do? You can't do it with, well, you could do a single strand wire, but you'd have to do a haywire twist off the first hook back to the second hook, then from there to there. So you've got 4 haywire twists to do. Bit of a pain in the backside. So what do? We use, you can do it with over 7-strand wire, but plastic coated is easier. So we'll do the snell knot onto the top here, and then we'll do a loop knot on the bottom. Or you can snell the bottom hook if you want as well, and it's snelled on there. So I'll pass, how many have I got here? I've got 3, okay. I'll pass that around, pass the rig around without the bait on it, then I'll rig it up a couple of baits. So on this one here, again, I just go through the side like so. Actually, you can go through and actually stick it out like so, just if you want to do something like that. And it works fine, they don't seem to care about it. And I'll generally go from the top down. So from the top and then down, out through the bottom, like so. And that's it. And you can use a bit of that bait mate on there if you want, but you don't need to. It's not going to twist, it's not going to do anything. The next one is the tail section. Again, very, very easy to do. I know you can't see down the back, guys, and but when it comes around, you'll get the gist of it. So, 2 little hooks first. The bottom hook always goes in first. So again, I'm just going to stick this one through this time, through the middle, like so. And then the top hook here, we're just going to go right through the top of the tail so it doesn't twist. Again, just finding that hard part, and it's just as simple as that. That's a lot easier than single hook rig and a lot more effective. Oh, thank you. I need 2 more if you got them, thank you. So a bit of bait coming in tonight, sorry about this, a bit smelly. So any questions on the 2-hook rig at all, folks? I know the guys down the back haven't got it yet, so you probably don't know until you see it. So my suggestion would be to make up maybe, I don't know, maybe, it depends which way you want to go, maybe half a dozen or 10 single hook rigs and probably at least 10 of those, and have them in your inventory ready to roll, which means you're going to use around about 30 hooks to do that. You need more swivels. And then how do we fish it? So we've anchored up, we're getting our burley going. So while the guys are rigging up their lines, they'll put their bait on the lines ready to be rigged. So have all your gear done the night before you go out. So your rods are sitting up there in the house ready to put in the boat the next day, okay? Next morning. And with your rigs attached, everything ready to roll. It's really important because when you get out there, you don't have time to do that. You've got to just get your line straight at the water. So pull up, we've anchored up, we're happy, there's fish on the sand, I'll turn the sounder off. Sometimes I leave it going. Does it upset the fish? That's debatable. For me, it just depends on the day. So if I'm not getting fish, I might turn it on and see what's happening, and I forget to turn it off and I start catching fish. That's totally against what I just thought about earlier in the day. Thank you, Dan. Cheers. Thank you. That's perfect. Thanks. But yeah, I'm happy with my spot. Turn my sounder off. First thing I do, chop up a heap of bait. Any old pillies I got amongst that block look a bit, or they're broken in the block, or they're broken in the carton. Chop them up, dice them out, dice them out, dice them out, dice them out. I'll put out probably around about 6 pillies straight up, chopped up. And then I'll chop them in half, and then I'll put on 2 and 2, two tails, 2 heads, cast them out, and I'm watching. And I'm looking and hearing for ratchets going or whatever it might be in the distance. And then I'll probably chop up some more pillies by this time and throw out another couple of tail sections or head sections. And just wait and see. And I might drop a livey jig over while I'm waiting and just get, if there's any bait there, as soon as it gets sun starting to come up, I'll get my first livey, and I'll always put a livey at the back as well. I know it's a bit of a nuisance. It depends on the current, depends on the wind, depends on everything on the day, which way it's going to sit. But I always put a livey out for a Spanish or something like that. Okay. And then it's just a waiting game, and just keep burling up and waiting. If they're going off over there all the time and they haven't come off me, and I'm hearing the ratchets going over there or the ear harring or whatever, I'll probably think, okay, should I pull my anchor and go have a look? If I do that, I'll probably troll around one big lap right around, see if I can mark fish on maybe a mark where some guy was sitting on my mark and he's disappeared. And if I go past there and there's fish on there, I might anchor up over that area, okay? While I'm going around too, I'm also watching for the surface. I'm watching for birds all of a sudden come to one area between the boats. And if they are there, then you might want to peg a bait in, but even though it's a bait seminar, you've got to have these things rigged on a rod ready to roll as well. Because if you see something come to the surface, you've got to throw it in there and take advantage of it. So have 2 metals set up too as well if you've got the rod capacity to do that. So if you're driving around, you're going slightly around, and you've got 2 lines at the back, trolling a couple of pillies as well, or a livey or whatever it might be, and you see the birds and you see the bit of splash on the surface, throw your metal out, okay, and give that a crack. So anyway, I've gone around and I've wasn't catching any fish, and the guys that are catching the fish, I'm right near them now, and I'm going, what the hell's going on here, watching these guys, you know. And they could just be on a spot where there's a lot of bait and the fish don't want to move off it. Simple as that. Can you get in there? You know, there's definitely ethics of boat fishing, and most people are pretty good, but some people just go troll up amongst the whole pack, or they'll just troll up and then someone's catching a fish and they'll stop and chuck their lines out. I personally wouldn't do that and wouldn't recommend it. I think in mackerel fishing, you've got to really be probably 40 metres away, at least. Because if you're using light line, which I do, my fish is going to run 40 or 60 metres easy, you know. So you're getting the other guy's anchor pretty close to it. You're trying to steer the fish away. If you get a big spotty on, which they have been recently, some of those spotties are over 1 metre and 8 kilos, you know. So you need to try your best not to cut the old mate's rope off. And if you do, I'd probably cut your line and just pretend you're rigging your line up or something. Because he's not going to be happy, especially if he's catching fish. Yeah, it's up to you guys. But I'd say 40 metres minimum would be the clear case, and someone comes closer to you than that, I'd probably give them a mouthful back and say, would you mind moving politely as you can. But mackerel fishing is one of those different things to snapper fishing. Snapper fishing, you have your own pinnacle, but guys don't really come up and anchor right next to you. But the mackerel fishing, they do. Yeah. So please be ethical. Okay, so we've done that. So we've got our fish going. So it's all happening. The fish are going off. So I'm only using light gear, guys. I'm only using like stuff, light. Like that would probably be a fairly light rod, something like that. 4,000 or 5,000 size reel. I even use 2.5 sometimes. I love these little reels singing. I'm using about, most of the time around about 30-pound braid or 20-pound minimum. Sometimes I use my flatty rods, so I've got 15, but generally 20 or 30-pound braid. Okay. I have a habit of knowing my drags, how many turns to quickly tighten it up when they're running. So what I'll do is I'll sit them in the rod holder, and I have the drags. I just drop it back a bit, and it's very loose when they scream off. I find if you have them set on spotties, sometimes they will hit it and it'll pop off. It'll pop because you haven't given it any slack, and if you haven't set your drag too tight, and you'll pop the bait out of their mouth, or they might even break the rig, or you just can't get the rod out of the rod holder in time, and they end up falling off during the fight. So my suggestion is to have it a little bit loose, let them take it right down. That's why every fish I catch, it's down their gills, because they just swam off with it, they scream off with it. I pick up the rod holder, and I quickly just do a couple of turns, and it's tight, not this particular reel because I was loosened off too much before. But it's the difference between light and tight, okay? So most reels are about one turn. Divers have a very quick one, which is a bit dangerous actually, but on some of the diver reels. But yeah, just get to know your drag, okay? So fish a really light drag, let them scream off, pick it up, tighten it up, and then you're on, they're on. If you want to fish a bit heavier drag out of the rod holder, that's up to you guys. If you've got a heavier rod, something maybe not this heavy but similar, a bit bigger, and you fish like that, and a lot of guys do this type of thing, and that's got like 50-pound braid on it, and it's in the rod holder. You can't really go loosening drag on this because it's quite a fair bit back to back it off, and quite a fair bit to get it to go tight, because they tighten up quite quick once you get up there. And again, the rod holders, the fish is on there, it's taken off. Getting out of the holder is quite awkward. Some holders, particularly if you get up high in the rocket launcher, which most guys don't do, but if you do, it's always hard. But bait boards are hard to get out too because they're a little bit high, and trying to get out of the bait board, sometimes it's quite awkward to get it out. My suggestion would be obviously rod holders that are fairly low to the boat. If you've got a good rod holder that's a flat adjustable one, like probably, there's actually not many good plastic ones, but plastic ones even in the side of the boat are terrible as well. They'll snap sometimes. So my suggestion is use just metal ones, and the metal ones that go into your rail with the sort of knurl type system that are adjustable, they're quite good as well. But if you're going to go plastic style, you've got to go American ones, which you've got downstairs. You can't go Chinese, they'll break. They're good for flatties, they're good for tail and stuff like that. They're not good for mackerel. Has anyone broken a plastic rod holder yet? Huh? Guys catch fish? Come on, they break. So my suggestion would be to go metal rod holders, okay? Whether it be a rail mount style or whether it be in the deck style, you've got to go metal. You need to fish 2 rods on about that angle and 2 that angle. You can't have them all sitting at the back like that. It's very difficult because you're not using any different size depths. You're all the same depth, same system, okay? Now that's where the next thing goes. If we've got no current and our lines are going down to the bottom and we're getting red rock cod, they're a pain in the backside, those little red rock cod, right? And you just want to get away from them, so you need to use some sort of float system. Personally, I wouldn't recommend using any styrene. I hate seeing that styrene drifting around out there. I know it's easy, you just wrap it around, 2 knife cuts it around. My dad used to teach me how to do it when I was a kid. Anyhow, but my suggestion would be to use a float. That would be the biggest float I'd ever use, about something half that size. And I'd be using a float stopper, which is this sort of system here, this little bead. Does Does anyone not know how a float stopper bead and a float works? Okay, can you want me to quickly show you, real quick? It's a great system. Except at the moment I'm out of floats. They didn't turn up today, so hopefully they'll turn up tomorrow. So there are these little silicon beads. There's about 5 beads on each one of these strands, okay? There's a little loop at the end. So what we're going to do, there's a leader on here. There's not. Nice. Get a bit of line. This is only 12 pound that'll do. So what I do is on my leader, which is going down to my little hook rig that's been passing around, before I tie the hook rig on, I thread the float on first. So the float sits on here. So this is my leader coming out of my rod, right? So I thread it through the float. Actually, no, I don't. I thread it through the bead first, sorry. Through the bead first. So thread it through that little bit of line and then there's a little loop there, right? Thread it through there. That's it. Only around about probably 40 mil through it, okay? Double that back and then slide the little silicon bead up onto your line that goes through to hit that 40 mil section, and that just pulls out. It's like that, okay? And this little thing's quite awkward to, not awkward, but it's quite stiff on the line, even if it's only 12 pound. And then we throw that through the float, and then we tie in your rig onto the bottom of that. So my lead I'm generally using for float line is 30 pound. I like to use fluorocarbon, okay? And what happens is, if you've got no current, I might generally set mine at about 2 metres or 1.5 metres, somewhere in that bracket. I like to have it just down a little bit. I find the bigger fish are down a bit deeper as well, and it's away from all the demersals on the bottom. Okay, so what I'll do then is I'll make this. Say my lead is it's generally about 2 metres long anyhow on a spin reel or an overhead. So I'll slide that little thing up to 2 metres, wherever it may be. Just imagine that's 2 metres now. So what happens is when you cast it out, this is actually on through your rod. The little thing's on your rod, like through the guides. But it casts out through the guides, no problems at all. It doesn't go clunk, clunk, clunk all the way out. You don't even know it's on there. And what happens, and the rig's here, so it floats right down at your rig, so it's easy to cast out. When it hits the water, the weight of the pilly pulls the line through here. The pilly's floating down nice and slowly. And when it hits that stopper bead, that's as far as the float will go. So it's a great system. And if the fish are a bit shallower, next cast out, you just grab your bead and just slide it down a bit more. So it's shallower and it only goes up that far, and it'll stop and your thing's there. So much better than tying floats on and wasting them every time you throw out. It's on there all the time. And great system. The other way you can do it is you clip on floats. So clip on floats is generally you push the bottom up, the little bit of wire sticks out like a hook, and you put your line through it, and when you take your finger off the bottom, it falls down and locks it in, and then you turn it upside down and do the same the other way. So 2 little hooks either end, but they lock into the float, and you sort of like pull it up the line a bit, but it sort of wrecks your line a little bit, but they're not too bad as well, but this system's better because the float's always down the bottom. The other one, if you've got 2 metres, it floats 2 metres up, and you're going to try and cast it out, which is quite awkward, as you know. If it's windy, pain in the backside. So use a float stopper system. I'll just cut this off here. Just try not to pull the stopper bead up over the edge if you don't mind, and you'll see what I'm talking about, how it works. So I've got floats on my lines because my lines are sinking to the bottom, and I'm getting these little red rock cod, the odd maybe legal squire, but it eliminates the line from sinking to the bottom. Opposite way is I've got too much current, so the currents are ripping, right? And my lines are like, if I use this system, my lines are coming to the top and they're spinning on the top, or just sitting on the top in the water like this in the current. In that situation, that's when you do use these bigger floats. You use like about a size 1 ball or a size 3 or 4 split shot, and you put it about that far above your hook. So your hook's still quite loose. So you put those little beads on your wire before you make your rig. So I might have, I don't have many, maybe 2 rigs with split shot and, not split shot, with those little beads. silicone beads. Actually, I'll show you the packet, how they look. You need to see what I'm talking about. That's it there. That's it. Let's pass it around like that. So the little silicone beads can adjust on your rig, and I can adjust on your lines, whatever you want. And you can actually adjust the sinker so it only goes down to that far above the bead, it won't go over the bead. So if you're using like a 9 ball with a big hole and it'll go over it, then use a little Lumo sinker, a Lumo round bead. So adjust your sinker as well. The sinker's not heavy enough to push that down the line, guys. When you're winding in fast though, if you've got a fish on and it's speeding through the water, it will pull up the line, but other than that it won't. So use a little bit of sinker, and you need to get your line down below the float vertically and not sitting in the current. It's really important. Any questions on that at all? Are you getting all this in? Yeah, cool, good. And when you're fighting the fish with spotties, just let them run. They'll do quite a couple of good runs. You get into the side of the boat, use a not too big a gaff. I see a lot of guys that have really big gaffs, and with too big a hook on it, right? You want your gaff hook to be probably no bigger gate than about 2.5, 3 inches. 2 inches would be perfect. So around 50 mil gate. They're not that wide like a Spanish mackerel as in this way. They're quite thin, right? And if you've got too big, you'll probably flip it off the gaff. So yeah, little gaff, always do a head shot, always when it's coming towards you. 30-pound leader, those little tiny spotties that are like 70, 80 centimetres, you can grab that and lift them in the boat. Anything over about sort of 75 centimetres, you probably need to gaff it. Don't net it because they'll bite through your net. Okay. Anything else I'll tell you about this float line? Anything else on float line you want to know? Everyone's good? Cool. Okay. Troll and pillies for spotties. So when you troll and pillies for spotties, there's a lot of different techniques, but probably the most popular technique is just a skirt with a lead and a cone on it, so like a nose cone, and we sell lots of these, hundreds a year, and it's a rig I was taught many years ago from Pro, and they're the ones you see the guys in the kayaks, the guys sometimes in jet skis, but mainly kayaks, and all the boats that troll super slow, they're using that type of rig there. Okay, has anyone used this type of rig before? Had any luck on it? Yep, good. So you troll it slow, about 1 to 2 knots. You're forever in and out of gear, so if you're trolling with the current and it's going too fast, you need to drop it back a bit. If you see bait school on the sounder and there's fish on it, I'll show you how it looks in a minute, you'll need to pull it back to neutral and actually let your line sink down into the bait, and actually you might actually go sideways in the boat drifting for about probably 10 seconds. Or 15 seconds, and then pop it just into gear really slow again and pull the baits back up through the bait school, and you get a lot of strikes that way. You'll also get a lot of strikes when you're turning as well. So if you're going down like that, as I was saying, down from north to south on the west side of the reef, and then you turn to go east. When you turn to go east, because I have my lines out for spotties a lot further than I do for marlin or anything like that. So my closest one's probably 25 metres back. My next one's probably about 40 metres back, and around 60 and maybe even 80. Depends how many boats are around, I can run on my line. And I'm trolling really slow. So 4 lines out, and when I do that turn, particularly the last 2, because they're so far out, they actually have about 3 or 4 seconds to sink down a bit. And when it's like, if you've ever been on a ski or something on a boat, and when it takes up, you get whipped. And that's what happens with these things. They sink down, and then all of a sudden they get pulled like that. And if there's anything following it, they'll nail it always on the turn. So my suggestion is to always be ready when you turn, in case one of the rods goes off, particularly the last 2. That'll be, mark my words on that one. Colour of skirt, look, it doesn't really matter, guys. Pink's supposed to be the most favourite colour to use on mackerel. I think it's probably right up there, but Lumo, silver, blue, they all work too. They all work quite well. The reason why pink works so well, because everyone trolls pink. Simple as that. So not really a big thing in that. How to rig it up. So I'll just quickly show you that now. So we'll grab a pilly here. Stewie's got me the smallest pilchers in the pack. And this rig's about 3 times too big for that. So I'm going to have to make the last hook swing, okay? But what we do is there's a little bit of wire at the end, and I can't see it in the end, I'm sorry guys, but there's a piece of wire sticking up there, and it's just a single strand wire, and it's a hay wire twist. So that piece of wire has to go through his chin and out his nose. So what we do is we work backwards. So we measure it out. So when I put that bit of wire through, which is right about there, okay, I'm going to work back, where's my hook start was. I was not going to start this one at all in the bottom one, so I let that swing. My second hook is going to start right about here. Blast that again, sorry. So I put the hook in straight down, dead set center. And then my next hook, same deal, in the center. Pop it in with your thumb. So hold it again with those two fingers and push down with your thumb between your two fingers so the hook never goes through your finger. Not it's going to go through this. And then my little bit of wire here, going to go up just before his eyes and through the head. Careful not to stab yourself in the hand. Try and do as centre as you can. And then pull the little spring down and then do up over his head as tight as you can get it. So you wrap it around his head as tight as you can get it. It's an old school method way, but it works really well. And then I pull the skirt down and just put it all nice and neat to bed, like so, and away you go. I'll just pass this around a sec, and you can have a look.
Is it fine for that hook to just be sitting there?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, like irrelative. It's irrelative. Yeah, what is?
With that method, I've had a lot of trouble with that gut pulling out.
Yeah, they do. So the pilchers.
You rigged them upside down, haven't
Yeah, I have. I don't get as many hits on, believe it or not. My dad used to rig them upside down because of that problem.
Yeah.
It's like I would trial a pilly probably about 2 laps most, and then I'll take it off and redo it. Some pillies have really bad pillies, and the guts are really soft. But if you try and keep them sort of semi defrosted, that makes sense, you'll get a couple of good laps out of them. You can't really do much about it, unfortunately. When you put it on though, don't push too hard in the gut. You just, like I said before, just delicately push it in, and it seems to work really well. Thank you. Same deal for little gar and same deal for little slimies. It's the same technique, same rig. The other rig that we use for pillies is the smaller version of this one. This is actually made for gar, but I'll just show it to you anyhow. There's a smaller version of this. It's a very easy rig to do because the top hook, which is this one here, closest to that there, it goes through the mouth and out through the nose. So you just stick it in there. So you line it up so that's where it's going to go. And start your first hook. So the first hook's up a bit from the tail. Second hook's about just near the bum. And the third hook's in just that part of his head and out. This one also swings. So not many lures do that. So it swings. So the fish actually swims behind it. It's quite good, but only good slow troll. I might rig up a little gar on that a bit later and pass that around. But that's mainly for big pilchards or slimies or gar.
Speed.
Yeah, very slow. And when you troll on baits, guys, there's only one speed and that's slow.
Yeah.
Except for one special rig which Al's going to show us in a moment. Okay, so you've got a couple of those in there. So my suggestion is when you get your wire, rig them up, rig up the gang. So I wanted to show you some different types of gang hooks you can use in there. So these days you have the luxury of dressed gangs, which means they've got tinsel and stuff on them. Back in the day, we didn't have any of that stuff. We used to maybe try and make stuff up, but generally it's just straight gangs. And there's a whole different array of types and sizes and styles. But if you were to put this onto those, we could use a, you probably have to open the gang because it's got swivels on top. That one doesn't though. The one with the swivel on top, you actually have to cut the swivel off. You need to open the eye up and get the eye over the top of that first hook on there. So on this one here, we've opened the eye up on the top hook here and slid it over the shank. Okay. You all know how to do gang hooks, how to open it up and close it. So use a pair of side cutters, which are little wire cutters, little side cutters. Hold the eye split towards you, and that's the top of the ring there. And when you pinch it, just pinch it enough, just in there a little bit, and then bend it out a little bit, just a little bit. If you've got high tensile hooks like most of the black hooks, sometimes they'll break. You might break all of them 10 out of 10. You might get a good batch, you might break 2 out of 10. But if you've got silver hooks, even the chemically sharpened silver hooks, they don't break as easy as the black ones for some reason. So we generally make most of our rigs on the silver hooks. So when you cut it, just cut it in there, and then squeeze it down and bend it out just a fraction. You only need to open it up about 1 mil. And then when you put the hook in, this is the secret, when you put the hook into the eye, you need to go in like that, bend it around, so the eye of the barb on the hook is actually going down that slot that you just opened up, and then bend it back around again once it's in. If you try and just go in whichever way, it doesn't seem to go as good. You can twist it around though as well, and then pop it at a 180 side. It'll work that way too. Okay. Make sure you close it back up when you put it on the hook, otherwise you'll lose that fish. So you can use these rigs here. I said cut the swivel off that one, but that one's actually got the, these are only new for this type technique. It's actually tight on there, but I think you can still cut the eye of the hook without cutting off all the stuff. This one here is fine. You can actually get to the top. It's the thread that's on that is below the cut on the eye. I'll pass that around. Thank you. I'll pass this around when I'm rigged up. And the other technique you can use, which is like really basic, I wouldn't suggest it because they spin, but when they're on the bite, you don't have the opportunity to wait for your bait to swim properly, because as soon as you drop it back, they're ready on it. They're ready on it. You just put the rod hold and ready to take it off. So in that case, you could just use something like a 9-inch trace, but get yourself a good wire trace that's thin as, good hardware on it, good swivels, good snaps, and probably around that 30, 40 pound. Again, short, 9 inches, and just clip on a set of gang hooks and put a pulley on. Like bare basics, but when they're on the bite, they'll love it. They won't care. Okay, so you could probably do something like say that and that would work fine on a small pulley. Actually, probably better that. Pass that around. So make sure the traces are quality. Don't just use those sort of ones with the little metal on the back and the little clip on it. They're terrible, that sort of trace. And don't get the ones that are stiff, like 60-pound wire. They've got to be very thin. Okay. And that goes in that. And just put a gang hook on it. I put a gang pulley up. Okay. Actually, I might just put a pulley on here anyhow, because I think it'll fit. You know, the Stewie's given me the baby ones. That should work. I'd use a bigger pulley than this guy, folks. This is not my standard. We do what we got to do, right? So when you do the gut part, mate, just hold it, just work it in. Don't break the side, whatever you do. If you break the side, that's going to straight away start falling out. Oops. And don't ever do what I just did. Once you start manipulating the front hook, the middle one starts manipulating as well. But just like so. Because these heads are so heavy, they'll pull your line down nice and deep. So most of these rigs, except for the one I was told you about now, we just put the gang hook on the trace, they're all quite heavy. So being heavy, they get down deeper, and I love trolling mackerel down deep. Okay. Right, down next. Probably got all the different gang hooks here, guys, but they're all the same. There's another rig you can get from Tackle Tactics, which is just your basic head like so, and you can actually add a little metal blade to the bottom of it. And those ones there, same deal, goes up exactly like this one here, goes up through the mouth and out, through the head and out. Any questions on that at all? So I'm doing this first. So as soon as I get out to in the morning, it's still dark. I'm dropping out 2 of these baits and just trolling around the pack, looking where I'm going to float line first. Okay, when I get there, then I'll switch to my float lining. Okay. Any questions on spotties at all? We're going to switch to Spanish mackerel now.
What sort of drag are you using?
When I'm trolling, good question. The heaviest rig I'm going to use is going to be like a TLD 20, something like that, or 25, with 15 kilo mono, or maybe like my jig reels, like a Torian 20 with 50-pound braid on it.
Yep.
Or I'll use an egg beater. At the most, for spotties, I don't really use that one, but like a size, say a 6,000 or 8,000 size reel with 30 or 40 pound, 50-pound braid on it. I'll use that as well. A similar rod to that rod there. And the drags depend on the size of the line that you're using. So if I'm using my 15 kilo overhead, I just sort of grab it and just pull it off, not too tight. Because remember, I'm only using 5/0 hooks, so if you've got too heavy a drag, you can straighten the hook out perhaps, or break your leader. Your leaders, when I'm trolling for spotties, my leader I love to use is around 40 to 60 pound. Same with Spanish too. I use a light leader. That's my leader between the braid and the rig. Yeah. So I still gaff everything I catch. So if it's under 80 or 75, I'll lift it in 40 pound. No problems into the boat. When you get mackerel on the boat too, guys, they're slippery as. They're really slippery. If you get a big Spanish or a spotty and you've had it flapping on the deck, my suggestion would be to have a deck hose or a towel, something to wipe the deck, because your mate will go arse over who didn't see it happen. Or you might be busy at the front of the boat pulling the fish in, and then the fish goes through the back. You guys had it happen to you? Yes, it happens, trust me. Yeah. There you go, that's true too. No, sorry. Anyhow, your mate will go walking in that side of the boat, he's playing the fish outside the boat, next thing he goes arse up because you haven't cleaned the deck from the fish that was just caught. And it's really slippery, so be careful please. Nothing worse than that happening, break rods, break ribs. So clean it up all the time. Another thing the customer said to me today, thanks for that pointer, was he said to me, Steve-O, he said, and I never done it before because I just belt the daylights out of them with a dong or some type. Or I put them straight in the bag. The beauty of bags these days, the old days of eskies was always a hassle. You got the fish on here, you're trying to lift the lid up to get it in there, the lid keeps falling down all the time. Painful. Fish bags, you can just drop them straight in there, uncut it or unhook your snap off there, because I sometimes use a snap on the end of my leader and hook it straight onto that, the rig. But you just drop it straight in the bag, unhook it, put another rig on. When I'm trialling too, guys, something I do too, I'll have a spare rig down up the bait on it, ready to go. Just snap it straight on if I need to. Or if my rig's still good, I'll just put another bait on. But yeah, so you can put it straight in the bag and worry about it later. But he said to me, just get a wet towel, and when you get the mackerel on the deck, put the wet towel on its head, then smash it. And if you do that, well, obviously, I know from experience, if you do it without the wet towel, you get blood all over your boat everywhere. So even a deck hose, you're sitting there scrubbing down, trying to keep it all clean, when you should be concentrating on fishing. So just put a towel on its head, beat it, and then the teeth won't get you as bad. And you can get the hook rig out without worrying about it, So we're beating because we're going to eat it. Just talking to that thing. Because people don't like us beating about fish. But anyhow, up to you guys. Okay, any questions on that so far? All good? Spanish mackerel. Okay, Spanish mackerel, next one. So Spanish mackerel, bigger scenario. So instead of putting out pillies, which I have caught them on pillies when I'm fishing for spotties on my little rigs, believe it or not. But most of the time I've got liveys out if I'm going to be at anchor. I'm anchored up on a spot and I've got liveys out and I'm cubing and all that as well. And I might upscale the rigs that I've showed you before with maybe 2 5/0s or 2 6/0s and a full pilly or a butterfly, slimy or yakka if they're die. Or I'll use live yakkers. If I'm using live yakkers, I'm using a little rig like this one here on the end of my line. Let's pass this around. And what I'm doing is using a treble and a single hook. Caught up here we go. So the single hook, if I'm using a livey, I'm putting it through his nose here, or in here and out. And this fellow here, I'm either hooking just one up in his backside, or I might put one in just the side of him and bend it around like so. So it's in his side. And those two are sticking out the side. But generally underneath is where I put it. If I'm using, again, I have rigs, all different rigs. If I'm using a big slimy or a pike or whatever it might be, legal tailor, I'll have a third one that's quite a bit longer with another treble on it. So 2 lots of trebles, 1 single. Okay, and the rig just looks like that. And I have a couple of different size wires. If I go longer rigs, I go a bit bigger. But you still get little fish on the big rig, heavy rig. So that's with liveys. So I'll be at anchor and I've got my liveys out. I've got them down generally deeper. So the mackerel these days, like when I used to go with my dad years ago, all that mackerel caught on the surface. Every mackerel, we never got them down deep ever. These days, I'd say 80% of my fish are caught down 20 metres from the bottom, in 40 metres deep, but halfway down to the bottom actually, to the bottom. And I don't know why that is, but they seem to hang down the bottom. If you look at your sounder and you see mackerel, and some of the screenshots I put on that post, you'll see that the bait are down, 40 metres deep, the bait are down between say 40 and 28 metres, and the fish are down there with them. They don't come much above 20 metres. When I'm trolling hard bodies or trolling baits though, they'll come up from that depth and grab your bait, no problems at all. If you go to downrigger though, you'll definitely do better, okay? So how many people have downriggers on their boats? What you do, mate? Yep. So downriggers are an exceptional great thing. I'll go there a bit later, I'll talk about this first, get carried away. So we'll go back to anchor. So we're at anchor, we've got 2 liveys out, I've got one sort of mid-water, about a size, I don't know, 3 ball sinker on it, 4 ball, enough to hold it down about 7 away from the fish. And the next one's got about 6 or 7 ball. It's just hanging down vertically straight down to the bottom and just off the bottom. And I just sit there with my liveys out and they just swim away. If you want to put one on the surface, that's up to you guys. The only time the mackerel I find that these days come to the surface if they push the bait to the surface, which happens every now and then. And that's when you see the top will glisten, there'll be birds coming around, and there'll be big mackerel and stuff in amongst them. In that opportunity, I'm always casting a little stick bait or casting a metal rather than casting a livey out. That's just the way I do it. Up to you guys. But I believe the opportunity is much better to lure in that situation rather than a bait. But otherwise, I've got my liveys out and just sitting down there waiting. When I'm at anchor, though, say in the Diamond Reef, March, say, after the season's reopened on the 22nd, I find March, April's a great time for the Diamond Reef, which is out the 24 fathoms off Southport here. And I'll definitely anchor and I'll definitely chop up heaps of pillies. I've definitely got liveys out. And I might just have a couple of pillies out on gangs for Spanish mackerel. And sometimes they're a little bit finicky, and sometimes I'll actually go to, when I'm using gang hooks, I'm going to mono. I'm not using wire. So I'm using little gangs. I'm using a pillies about the size of the one that's going around, a bit bigger. And I'll use a 2-gang or a 3-gang hook. Just using only 2 gangs here. But I'll use 2 4-0s or 2 5-0 true tones with the full pilly. I might chop the tail off it. I find that if I chop the tail off, it doesn't spin as bad. And a little bit of blood comes out. Or I'll use just a 3-gang 5-0. And I find that with the gang hook, I get a lot less bite-offs. If I use 2 single hooks snell together, I've got to use wire. If I use a single hook, I've got to use wire. But if I use a gang, I don't have to always use wire. And you get a lot more bites. So I use about 40-pound fluorocarbon. It's quite, I'll still bite through it like a hot knife through butter, but mentally it's a bit of protection because it's fluorocarbon, so it's a bit tougher. And I find 40-pound is the secret one that they don't seem to be totally non-shy to it. So if there's one around, you throw it out, they'll just eat it. And that's with pillies. And some days I like pillies more than liveys. You can have 2 liveys down, and have my pillies on the gangs, on the anchor again, on the Diamond Reef, and they're continuously going off on the pillies, but they're not taking the liveys as much. I don't know why. Yeah, it's good. So give that a crack. Other than that, that's my anchoring system. I want to get out to the Spanish mackerel, same deal. Let's take a Diamond Reef. I'm out there, in say March, April, it's daylight about I don't know, 5:30, say, or 5:45. I'll be out there at 5 o'clock in the dark, and I'll troll my garfish or whatever I'm going to rig up in a moment around, and I'm just checking out all my pinnacles. So it's not like Palm Beach or Mermaid where you have 100 boats in a size of a football field. Out there, you've got pinnacle there, pinnacle there, pinnacle there, pinnacle there, and it might be 2Ks or 3K run between your troll run. So you're going and you're looking on those pinnacles, trying to find where they're stacked up. And that's where I'm going to, when I find the one that's stacked up, which is always a couple of them at the most popular spots, which I think you've got on your GPS marks, which we'll look at later, that particular area is where I'm going to anchor. And when I anchor there, I'll then focus on getting the live bait. And by that time, the daylight's come. If I'm getting fish on my troll, though, before I get to anchor, I'm not going to stop trolling. I'm going to keep trolling. Okay? The trouble is these days, a 2-fish bag, you're not going to probably anchor up. So when they're on the chew, you won't even get to anchor up. You just got my bag on and going. But yeah, it's like that. You know, some days you get 2 or 3 fish. In the old days, you get 2 fish per person. So I've got my 2 boys or a mate with us as well. So we'll get 6 or 8 fish. So we might get 2 or 3 trolling before we anchor up. Then we anchor up and get another 2 or 3, doing it that way. So yeah, that's the way I do it. So my troll rigs, when I'm trolling early in the morning, I like using gar, guys. Gar's my favourite go-to. And I use a fairly solid size gar, like that sort of size, okay? Next size down is not too bad, but that's the sort of size I like to use. And my rig I use a couple of different rigs. I use just a bigger version of that little one that went around earlier with the weight on it. So it's a bigger size weight though, and a bigger skirt and bigger hooks, obviously. Same, the wire's a bit heavier as well. So I've gone from like 40-pound wire to about 80-pound wire or 60-pound wire. You don't need to go that heavy, probably 50s enough, 58's enough. But it's just a heavier version of it. And I'll use that other type rig that's going around, but in a heavier one again, like a 3-ounce, quite a big one. And Alan has kindly donated. So Alan's brought us in the crowd here tonight. There he is, just getting the rig now. And he's been working this 2 years, Al?
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah. So this is a secret weapon, guys. I haven't even tried it yet, to be honest. I haven't had a chance to get out to give it a good crack. Tomorrow morning I will. So Alan's done this rig that is unique. So always in all these rigs, they just pull straight, right? You can get the fish a little bit swimming, but it doesn't do much. This particular rig has a bib on it. You've got one in your bag. He's given you an unrigged version, so you guys just rig it up easy. And it has a bib on it, so it actually makes the bait swim in the water. So how it does that? Yep. Yeah. So I'm going to get Alan to come up. He's going to rig one up for us, and I'm going to send it around, and away we go. But I think, is that gar too big, Alan, do you reckon?
No,
that's fine, mate? Yep. So I'll give you that one there. It's not a very good gar, so I don't.
Thanks, Dougie.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, so Al, if you want to talk a bit about the story first.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Thanks for having me along. As I said, Doug, appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, you're welcome, mate.
About,
Thanks for giving the guys one each.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, guys, I've been living on the Goldie probably for about 20 years, been fishing about 15. I live down at Palm Beach, our company's based at Burley Heads, so Palm is my local. And for a long time, I've been making my own particular rigs, which, as you probably all know, for those of you who have trolled for mackerel, can be a little bit finicky to get them to swim without spinning, or at least even pulling straight. It often takes a little bit of re-rigging and retying and pulling through the water. And so I really wanted to come up with something that was a little bit more user-friendly and quick and easy. So over the last 2 to 3 seasons, we started with some basic prototypes, which, as Dougie mentioned, you'll see in your bag. And then we sort of landed on this as our final version here, which essentially, if you can imagine, I guess is like the front part of a hard body lure, with essentially a spot for the bait to go in. In terms of the bait, first of all, as we talked about, this particular size is going to be suitable for something like a larger pilly, small slimies, gar, yakkers. We do have 2 other sizes in the works. We've got a couple of delays for them. I've been using the prototype for this season in the mid-size, which will take your bigger slimies and your small tailor. And then we've got a large one which is going to pull bonito. So unfortunately still a few delays on those. So this is the small version, and then we've got medium and large coming. Basically speeds, first of all, that we'll just talk about. As Dougie said, that once you start pulling the standard rigs, anything over about that 2-3 knots mark, that's when you will find them start to spin. These particular devices like a little bit more speed. I do find probably around about that 3-4 knots. So they will work anything from 1 to 2 knots right up to about 5. Once you're hitting over around that 11-12 kilometre an hour mark, they may start to pop depending on your bait. But sweet spot, look, it's normally around about 3-4 knots. Last week I got a few Spanish, they didn't hit it at the really slow speed. I upped it to around about 5 knots and got 3 in quick succession, obviously released 2. They basically will work, as I said, across a large range of speeds. The smaller pilchards obviously aren't going to get as much action as your sort of medium slimy. So probably the most common bait that I'll use targeting Spanish is your small slimies on this particular rig. Dougie does sell the pre-rig versions downstairs, which will look like this. So that will come with 44-pound wire.
I'll pass it.
Couple of high quality trebles. Obviously you can shorten or lengthen this sort of rear stinger to suit your bait. We've just sort of landed on this to, I guess, cover most of your small to medium baits. Okay.
They're 35% off tonight too, guys. Good price.
Yeah. So the principle behind it in terms of rigging, as I said, I wanted something really simple. They are called the Reaper rig, which I guess gets its name from this Grim Reaper inspired slide on top. Really, they're very simple. You can rig them right way up or upside down. Personally, over the last 10 years or so, I do find that makes no real difference. I get hits on both of them. If your bait is a little bit soft, like your pillies and whatnot, I will run them upside down for that reason, so the hooks, the trebles will go into their backs. Good quality bait is going to be important, obviously, especially if you're trolling at those faster speeds. So if you're going to be pulling these things at sort of 4 or 5 knots, with pillies that have been thawed and then frozen and rethawed, you're going to blow the guts out straight away. So having as good a quality bait as you can get is ideal. When the slimies are on, we'll jig and we'll freeze, like a heap of small slimies, and then use them through mackerel season. The fresher the bait, the better they're going to work. In terms of the bait, when you're rigging these things, like I said, I've run them with gar, pillies, whatever, as I'm sure Doug does with these things. Do you want me to show how?
Yeah, do you want it small? Are you happy with that size?
Yeah, that's fine,
Yeah,
like I said, yeah.
I just always on guard too, guys, snap the beak off just past the level of the top beak. So it's no beak.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
It's not a very good car, by the way.
that's right, all good.
Crappy ones.
With your baits, obviously this is still fairly frozen, so you do want to thaw them out. Like I'll put mine in the fridge the night before, so that they're pretty much thawed the next morning, or obviously chuck them in some water when you get out there straight up. If the bait is stiff like this, obviously you're not going to get a whole lot of action out of it when it's like that, and it may even spin. So they do need to be well thawed. Imagining that this is already thawed, what I quite often like to do is squeeze along the backbone just to release that flesh off the vertebrae, and then really just give it a good flex. Essentially, once you get that action, then that's going to replicate in the swimming motion.
It's only the gar that you squeeze on the backbone, and squeeze it where the silver line is. That's actually for you guys to touch to squeeze it. So, yeah.
So that'll definitely free it up and give you more action. As I said, you can run these right way up or upside down, so it doesn't make too much difference. I'll just show you the right way up. Really simple, really quick. Basically just shove it straight in. That little Reaper skive just pretty much goes straight down, through the head. Okay, locks it in, and that will basically keep it in place without the trebles.
Quick and good.
Really quick, yeah, that's the thing. If it's a hot bite, you want to get these things back in the water pretty quick. And then your trebles, obviously you guys know how to fit a treble, but essentially I'll just tuck that first one in. Just
like I said before, one in the belly, yeah, up the way.
Yeah, and then your second one, I do try to keep the wire fairly tight to the bait, all right, so that it's sort of not, doesn't have too big a belly in the wire itself. And then, yeah, wherever it pretty much lands. So as I said, you can tie your own stinger to suit the bait. I often will run them right at the back, if the mackerel are just going to snip the tails off. But I also run them in the middle as well. Doesn't make too much difference. Pull the skirt down, and away you go. So as I said, they're pretty foolproof. Like they're pretty user friendly. Like you don't have to generally re-rig and get them straight. As long as you get them roughly centred, then you're pretty much in the right vicinity.
Like I've been doing this all my life, and this is the best rig I've ever seen. So I think it's right up there.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah,
No,
so like any fish, you will find that on certain days they might be a bit finicky. They may not hit that. I'll sometimes run like one of Doug's standard rigs, which just the sinker along the bottom, and one of those, see what they're going to hit. There's not a guarantee, like you all know. You're not always going to get a fish on those. They have been smashing the Spanish for me this season more than the spotties, so they've been doing really well in that regard.
Very good. And Al, do you find that the bait sort of hangs in there like 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
Yeah, look, depending on the speed. The good part about the sort of that front cone design is that you're not getting a lot of water.
No water in the gills.
So I do tend to find they don't blow out as quick. Pillies I do find blow out quicker than the slimies. Gar and yakkers are going to hold in there even better. But look, they're pretty resilient.
Yeah, I find with gar and yakkers, like even gar, sometimes I control, if I'm having a bad day, they're on to go home as well after 3 hours of trolling. The gut's a little bit soft. Yakkers, like you say, mate, they'll last probably up to an hour. Slimies, about 20 minutes, I find, slimies. And pillies, you won't get 20 minutes, generally speaking.
Just touching on something that Doug said earlier before as well, in terms of varying speed and direction as well, depending on how many boats are packed in the pond. Often a direction change will, as Doug said, allow those baits to drift down into the pack. I'll often pause, neutral, let them sink 10, 15, 20 metres, pop it back into gear and pull them back up through the water column. So you do need to vary a little bit. As I said, like the other day last week, that first sort of half an hour I didn't get a hit. And then just change it up, change the speed, change the direction. You just got to adapt to suit the conditions and what the fish want on that day.
Perfect, yeah. So all great tips. And anyone got any questions for Alan at all? Don't be shy.
Before you retire, you reckon?
Hopefully become a full-time fisherman.
It is we get those into the States, that's where it needs to go.
It's pretty early on. I've been working with Doug, seen the prototypes, getting his advice over the last couple of seasons. Obviously started out 3D printing them and got to the point where they're aluminium now. They're just starting to take off. Like we really wanted to launch them for this season. We do have, again, powder-coated variants in the works as well, so different colour heads. We just had to get them to market and get them out there. And we've got guys from Sunny Coast getting Spanish up there down to Coffs. And as I said, there's no guarantees like anything in fishing, but at least if you can get the bait swimming well and consistently, then that's certainly a big part of the battle.
And that's the problem. Most people are a bit scared about rigging up their baits, and what we showed you earlier, there's not much to it, but there's a little bit to it. This thing is a no-brainer. You can't go wrong. So, well done.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't stab your finger?
Jamming your fingers.
Yeah, that's right. It's very quick. Yeah.
All right, no, I appreciate it.
Okay, no, good work, Alan. Thanks, mate.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Alan, for sponsoring too, mate. Thank you. So we've got these downstairs in the game section where all the hook rigs and that are. And tonight they'll work out about, I think around about $24 or something like that. Okay, 25, somewhere there. Rigs, that is. Okay, guys. So when you're rigging up saris, gar, slimies, and pillies, it's all the same technique, same rig, same everything. The only thing that might be a little bit different is rigging up a little bonito or something like this. Okay, and but you can put this onto a bigger version, like I was saying before, like this. Alan, have you tried any bigger baits on yours at all, mate?
On the medium size, though, the prototype.
You got a bigger one coming, mate? Yeah, okay,
so
cool.
I'll use, sort of like I said, probably your large slimy to your small bonito.
Yeah, okay.
And got a couple of Spanish this season already on
Yes,
the bigger ones.
yes.
You do have to troll a little bit slower with the bigger baits.
Yeah, of course, yeah, yep.
Yeah, like I said,
Yep.
we've had a few delays, but the bigger ones hopefully are coming. So
Yeah, no,
I
that's
don't know
good.
if we'll quite make this season.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm pushing hard.
Okay, no, that's good, mate. That's good. We'll be here for it. Okay, so so if you rig up a gar, a bonito or a big slimy, same technique. My suggestion would be though, obviously troll slow, but my suggestion would be I run barrel sinkers. If you haven't got a downrigger or a paravane of some type, would be I use 8-ounce barrel sinkers, and I run sometimes 2 barrels. So when my mate's using his downrigging or my old downrigger, my boat, and I've only got the one line on it and the other line. So just imagine, I'll just draw it here real quickly. If this is the boat here, and this is the bottom down here, and with the downrigger, my line's going to be sort of on the downrigger weight. On the downrigger weights like this here, a bit of an angle. It's going to be sitting around about that sort of area there. Like, say that's the top here to there is 40 metres. And I always find, as I was saying earlier, that the Spanish mackerel on the 24 fathoms, which is a diamond reef, are always 28 metres down. That's just the honey hole for them. And when you're fishing on the pinnacles of the seaway in 32 metres or 18 fathoms or 17 fathoms, they're always 18 metres down. Just 18, 28. It's very easy to remember the depth. Okay. On this one here, I run a drop back on my downrigger of about probably maybe 20 metres or 25 metres, up to 40 metres sometimes. So fair way back. So we'll have to do a downrigger night one night because it's a bit of work in telling you guys how to rig it all up. But what it enables you to do is to troll baits down very, very deep, because we've got this massive big 8-pound or 10-pound ball sinker thing weight down the bottom here, holding it in place. If I'm trolling my next line, if it's normal, just the weight of these rigs here, just that weight there, or the weight like Alan's got, your lines are probably going to be, this is top here, your lines are probably going to be sitting maybe down around here somewhere, a couple of metres down or a metre down. How far are yours down, Al?
Yeah, probably about 1 to 3 metre
1 to
range.
3 metre range, yep, that's right. So what I'll do is I'll maybe add, have you tried adding a barrel sinker to get yours down a bit deeper yet, mate? Or you probably just troll a palm, you don't need to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've used them elsewhere. Obviously.
Gravel patch of that, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't got it downrigger, so I'm
Yeah.
pulling further down, but
Yeah.
I think that would work just enough.
Yeah, that's right. So what you might want to do is sort of maybe on your leader, so between the rig and that far, maybe 1.5 metres up or whatever, I'd run another swivel, and then I'd run a piece of about 80-pound mono and put a barrel sinker on, and then run another swivel above that. So you've got the swivel there, about 1 metre of leader, 1.5 metres, and then your little rigs on the end of that, okay? And what that enables it to do is it'll just swim nicely. If you have the sinker too close to it, it won't work. It's just too much at that end. So what I'll do is I'll put a barrel sinker on here, and that line will now come down to probably around this depth here. So about probably, I'm guessing around about 8 metres down. I'm still not getting down to the zone. So what I'll do is, if it's not getting down, then all the fish are getting striked down here, I'll then take off that one sinker and I'll put 2 barrel sinkers on there. So between the 2 swivels about that long. So it's enough to put 2 or even 3 on if you want to. So now I've got 16 ounces on there. And that'll get down now. I've found I'm getting nearly as many strikes on here as I am on the downrigger. So I'm running 2 sinkers on my line in this position sort of here. So just try that. So if you're getting nothing up high, you need to get your lines down deep in trolling, slow troll. So just have some 8-ounce barrel sinkers in your boat and ready to roll, and that's all you do to apply it to it. So when I'm trolling these bigger baits, I'm always using at least 1 8-ounce or 2 8-ounce, and it keeps it in control, because that thing has more flow effect to control your line rather than it can control the bait. you need to be able to control the bait. So to keep that bait in good order and good swim rate, you need to have it like locked in and it's just swimming along. So those two big sinkers down there really hold it and keep it in position. So if you're using little baits, it's irrelative, but big baits, you need to be able to control them. So just try that. But I don't use many big baits unless they're big mackerel later in the season. And I find most gar and slimies and all that will obviously do the same job. A tailor is a similar thing too. You control live baits, obviously live tailor as well, live slimies, live everything. So you're just using the rig. You can use yours on liveys too, Al? Have you tried that? Or does it brain them?
Yeah, I haven't done that.
Haven't done it yet?
I think it probably,
Yeah, put them out of their misery.
yeah, that's right.
But give it a crack. Do live baits outdo dead baits? Sometimes they do, but not necessarily all the time. Okay? A good dead bait presented well and swimming nicely, I reckon down deeper, we'll probably catch more fish than a trolling live slimy on the top. So give that a go as well. Any questions on that at all, folks? So we got our bait in actually today, yesterday. And so we try to get little slimies. There's no little slimies available from the two places we buy from. The garis are good, they come in, and there was no saris. And the saris are like if you don't know what they are, they're the ones you always see jumping in the water offshore a lot. They're saris. So everything loves a sari. It's like a big pilchard, but a long version of like a garfish shape. So saris are really good. The only place you can sort of buy them from, if you can't get them from the bait shops, and we only get them when we can get them, and everyone's in the same boat as us, is you buy them from an Asian shop. They have them in the Asian shops. You buy them packs of 3 or whatever. They're well presented because they're eating ones. The trouble is half the time they have their heads chopped off. That doesn't work. So you need the heads. So try and find the place that's got head ones. Other than that, slimies. So slimies are a predicament too. So normally we can get the little slimies. At the moment we couldn't get them, but they're really good for trolling as well. They're about that big and they're good bang for buck. The biggest slimies, there's a problem with big slimies. Everyone's eating them now, okay? So you can't get them at the right price. They're expensive, and the quality is obviously not good enough for eating if we're going to get them for bait. So they're generally soft. So it's a hard predicament now to get good slimies. Big. Little ones are okay because they don't eat little ones. They're all good. They're beautiful. Big ones, not so good. So we got them down there, but they're a little bit soft, and that's all we can get. That's what we get offered these days in the bait shops. My suggestion is exactly what Alan said. If you know the slimies are on, like they've been on at Spot X and out a bit deeper recently, you just go out for a bait day. Take your sabiki rod out there and load up, and then bring them back and put them in packs. This is if you get serious into your fishing. And fry vac them or put them in bags, wrap them, whatever, and have your whole freezer that your wife doesn't use with the baits in there, okay, ready to roll. And it's worth the exercise some days just to get bait. Yep. Probably should have done that last week. Actually, last week we dropped the bait jig down out on Sunday at the 50 fathoms, and my son dropped down. We use the interline rods, which I took it home the other day to use, so it's not here. And it's like the line goes through the centre of the rod. We got them downstairs, and we sell lots of them. It's easy, non-messy. The sinker hangs out the end, and the bait jig's down the tube of the rod, so they don't get caught up. So Jack dropped it down. I used a fairly heavy bait jig out there. It was 15-pound branch and 20-pound mains. It's a really strong one. And dropped it down and hit the bottom, just Jack, and he's straight away like that, because we saw the bait school. It was right down to the bottom, and then it was on. He goes, I think a big fish has grabbed the bait, Dad, as he was saying to me. And I go, I don't know, and it's like shaking like crazy. I said, I think they're big slimies. Yeah, get into it. So he couldn't even wind it. It was slipping actually on the drag. And then all of a sudden it went boom, 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 it went loose. And he goes, there's still one or two on there. So he's winding them up. It was fighting like crazy. And he brings up, and I don't know if you've ever seen a cow and young. You all know what a cow and young is? It's like a yakka, but they're 45 centimetres long and a kilo. They're huge. It's like catching tuna. So he had 6 of those on his line. He got a full house. Only the top hook had the one big massive slimy on it, and the rest were all snapped off. So they're out there at the moment. They'd be great troll baits, but we ate it because they're really good at eating that size. Sashimi, that is. So But we can get those big slimies, go out and get them if you can. It's a fair run though. Or if you get them in close. The other day, I did see the yakas out at Palmy the other day, Ella? Like there's like a fish tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With birds.
Yeah. But yeah, so much bait. So they're only little yakas, but they're like little pocket rockets. They're great bait, live and dead. So yeah, get yourself live bait. If you get a ice slurry happening for your mackerel, throw them in there. You can get them out later. Sort them out later. Okay. I think the only thing I was going to tell you about was I like to use. These are called wog heads, and that's just the terminology. And these things are, for me, a magic thing. So instead of using the skirt, I use this over the top of the rig, and they sit in the water like that. They're backwards, okay? But you can see there's a big hole in there, and the reason why the big hole is because that spring goes right up inside there. It's well protected, and when it goes in the water, these things pull back that way, so it pulls back like that, and just really works really well. And when we slow down, it pops back, and then when you go forward again, it goes that way. So it's a bit like they're alive, I guess. Been around for many years. They were developed by GN Industries, which is a place up near Innisfail. And back in the day, it took them back in the 70s, and that's what all the pro mackerel fishermen used to use for mackerel. They still use them today, and they're very, very good. Come in different colours: greens, blues, pink. Pink's the biggest seller, of course. As always. How about yours, Alice? Pink, your biggest seller, mate?
Yeah, I think
Probably is.
so. Probably because of that confirmation bias that everyone uses it, so everyone
That's
catches
right.
on.
Yeah.
But I'm the same. I've had hits.
Yeah. I find red's really good. Red's a good colour for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know up to you, but and Lumo's good. But pink's is fairly good too. Okay, guys. So, any questions on that at all? Everyone's clued up. So we go out and do it. So, Stewie's got a bait jig rod. Good on you, Stewie, mate. Who hasn't seen one of these before? Anyone not seen one of these before? A few of you? Okay, so thanks, Stuart. Thanks, Matty. So this is it. We do these at the right deal, $199 for the combo, but the bait jig's actually internal. So when you drop it out, I'm going to push the button in now and let it go. The bait jig just drops straight out. There's the bait jig, okay? And you drop the bait jig down. And it works really. Oh, you catch. Yeah, I've actually hooked marl on these things, but they've just come off straight away. But not intentionally. But when you wind it up, it just goes straight through. Except for that one there. There's always one in the crowd. There we go. So it just goes straight up internals, and you all know if you've got a half cabin boat or whatever it might be, other rods in the way, and you've got your bait jig rod with your bait jig on it, external that is, like a normal rod, it is a pain. Like it gets caught up, you get seasick trying to unravel the thing, and it gets caught in the nice cushions, and your wife's not happy because you could cut out the hole because you're in a hurry with a pair of scissors. Anyhow, they just make life easier. Okay, and everyone says, "Oh, the rod's too heavy. I better feel the bait." Trust me, you feel it. It's bouncing around like crazy with the fish on it. So yeah, great thing. Yeah. Up and down, away she goes, straight out. That's it. And you can use up to a pound of lead on there, so depending on the current, good product. Yeah. Thanks, Stuart. Okay. Any questions at all? Yes?
Time of the day.
Time of the day, Brian. Good call. Last year was a very important year for me on mackerel because and Stewie knows, because I religiously follow tides and moon rising, okay? And because it just proves itself too many times. And we went out one morning and we got fish a little bit later the morning, about 3 mornings earlier. Went out about 3 days later, it was a good break. So I went out early this morning, the mackerel on, I'm going to smack them. We got nothing. And then I looked at the bite time, was spot on 3 days early. It was, say, at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock. We were about to come in, they come to bite. This day was at 11:30, 12 o'clock, because it's a few days later. So I said to my mate, let's go back out again at 11:30. And he's like, what? And I said, let's just meet me in the boat ramp and go. Let's do it. So I went to work for a couple of hours. Stu said, where are you going? I didn't actually have the time to tell you where I was going. I just took off. And
it was just before the seminar last year.
It was, yeah, that's
so
right.
we fished that morning.
That's right.
And I came to work, Dougie came to work.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Dougie just walks out, he's like, I'll be back soon, didn't tell anyone. went on track my phone,
That's right.
and he was out there.
Yeah, that's right. My mate said, because I was with my mate a few days earlier when we got him, and I said, let's go at such time. And he said, okay, I'll meet you down at the ramp. That's actually at the marina. So we jumped in his boat, off we go, got out there, and I can't remember who was with us, Jack or Liam, one of the two, I think. And we got our, it was 11:30 in the day, Brian, and as soon as that bite time was on, 11:30 or 12, I can't remember what it was, they just, like triple hook up, we had triple hookups, trolling baits, triple hookups, trolling the harbour. It didn't matter what through the water. We bagged out in an hour. And so I told a couple of customers, went out a couple of days later, 1:30, like again, keeping with that bite time. Every day it changes by about 50 minutes to an hour. Smashed it. So if it's to do with the moon rising or 2 hours after high tide, doesn't matter whichever way it is, there's a major bite time and a minor bite time. And if that coincides with early morning or late afternoon, that's perfect fishing. But a lot of the time it's like that, it's in the middle of the day. So high tide might have been on that day, I don't know what it was that day. I think it was might have been around 10 o'clock, because I remember when we come in, it was nearly low tide. So, so 2 hours after, about 11:30, 12 o'clock, and that's when the bite period was on. And then the other bite period you get sometimes can be when the moon's rising. So generally when the 2 hours after high tide is generally when the moon's on the horizon above you. So whether it be a full moon or a new moon, a full moon won't be a new moon, but if it's a full moon, the tide is always high just before the moon rises on the horizon. It's a full moon, so the tide will be high at 7 or 6:30, and the moon will rise about 8 or whatever it might be. It's always just an hour and a half after. Does that make sense? So if it's a dark day and high tide was at say 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning, the bite time will be when the dark moon rises at 7:30 in the morning, and that's when they'll bite. And that day they'll bite maybe all day, sometimes, because the moon's in the sky the whole day then. Where generally you get a later time when it rises. So as this weekend's coming up, so the full moon is on, I think Tuesday, is it, next week or something like that? I think full moon's on around the end of the month, or just before the end of the month, might be Sunday. So leading up to the full moon is a really hot bite time. So it actually kicks in, starts a bit tomorrow's about 35-40%. I think Friday's about 55, Saturday's like 75, Sunday's like 95 or 99, leading up to the full moon. And the bite times will be probably, I'm dare saying, if it's full moon, it'll be bite times around probably mid to late morning, I think. But I'm hoping tomorrow morning early, just the time I got. I'll try and prove it wrong. But generally speaking, it's that period, mate. Yeah. So if you follow the almanac, the fishing almanac, it's pretty accurate. So it's based on moon phases. Moonrise. Yeah. Any other questions at all, folks? Okay, I just want to tell you about this one here, fishing 2.0, because the fish are going to come on up at Jumping Pin Wave eventually in the next couple of months. May already be there. But you need to get that on your phone, because you need to know when you get up around. Has anyone fished up Jumping Pin for mackerel yet? It's one of the best spots around when they come on. They always start down Elms Way first. Every year, religiously, they start down at Palm Beach. They bypass Jumping Pin, Southport, start down there, and then they'll work their way north, Gravel Patch, Mermaid. By that time, we're getting a few off Southport as well. And then they'll be still off Southport, but they'll just come on en masse, which is the end of the season, off Jumping Pin. It's getting more known though, because sometimes last year there was 60 boats there, so it got well known. But when the fish are at the end of the season, they are super massed together, like so many fish, ridiculous, tens of thousands, lots. But this one here, so when you go up Jumping Pin and you're heading up towards the pin bar, there are green zones off South Straddie, okay? They run for about 10 kilometres long, quite long, and out to about like 25, 30 metres deep or something like that. So when you're cruising up there, and you're near Jumping Pin Bar, maybe a few k's back from it, but you don't realise you're still in the green zone. And there's fish everywhere around you, and it's very hard not to say, I'm going to put my lines on the water, or obviously start casting metals or whatever it might be, troll some baits. because there's a big Spanish jump out next to you in the boat. It's like pretty hard. But if you got this app, it's a free app. It's from the government, and it's down live time, so it doesn't work. It works on your data, but when you're out of data area, it works off satellite. So you can't go wrong. It's always telling you this is what you got to do. So it says, "Can I fish here?" It's a little icon says, "Can I fish here?" You click on that, and straight away it shows the green zone, and straight away it shows where your boat is in the green zone or out of the green zone. Okay, so put it on there. And last year we'd pull up a couple of times and go to grab the rods and say, "Stu, hang on, let's check. Oh, we're still in the green zone." We take off a bit further, and there's a fish all around us. So I'll stop again and check. Oh shit, we're still in the green zone. Keep going. And then we come out of the green zone, there's no fish. No, just joking. There's lots of fish. But it's because you're going through it all, it's pretty hard not to stop. So put it on your phone. Navionics next. I want to always talk about Navionics, but if you haven't got any phone, my suggestion is you do put it on your phone. Spelled Navionics. This one does cost you. It's about $40 a year or something like that. And it's called Navionics Boating, actually, Australia. So put that on your phone. It's your full-blown relief shading card that's cost you about $300 or $400 in a $40 app. All the relief shadings there. You can do everything with it. You can track on it, take photos. You can do everything. It's an amazing app. It's really good. So do that. Other than that, I think there's much else to tell you. Yeah. So, the other thing, I didn't grab any of the bait runner combos. So we talked before I talked about loosening off the drag when I float line fishing, guys. If the easiest way, does anyone use bait runners here at all? A couple of you do. So bait runners are a great thing for mackerel fishing and salmon fishing and jewies and everything else, but really good for mackerel. So what they are, I've got them downstairs, but we've got on special too, but you cast it out, you cast your line out, you put it into free spill, so you push the lever forward, it's an egg beater, push it forward, and it disengages the spool, so the fish can just run off with it. You have a setting on the back so it doesn't overrun, so you can actually adjust a little bit, or the current's trickling out, just tighten up a little bit more. You have your drag already preset though, so you know exactly where it's right. So you've got your rod holder, you can have it vertical on the rod holder. This is the best part about these things. The rod doesn't have to be like I said before, like that, like that, like that. It's vertical, and you can have it sideways. And it takes off, it doesn't feel any resistance, it just pulls that free line. So the fish is running away, and you can grab the rod holder and wave it around. It doesn't know you're doing that because it's still running free. And then just when you're ready, just turn the handle, and it clicks it straight back into gear, into drag, sorry, and sets the hook straight away. So a great thing. And then we'll talk about those a bit later. Got them downstairs there. And that's about it, I think. Anything else you need to know at all, guys? No? Okay, cool. So thanks, Alan, again, mate. Great work. And what do you call me, mate? They are called Reaper Rig. Reaper Rig, good name. It does look like a Grim Reaper's hook.
If anyone wants to watch a video on our
Yep.
website, lureusin.com.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, mate.
how to rig it.
Yeah, you've got that little thing on the back here,
Yeah,
right?
QR code.
Yeah, QR code's on the top there, top of the box. Well, can I have a look? Okay, well, it's going to switch this here off. Thank you, guys. You got it, mate? Cheers, mate. So just remember those two size leaders, guys. 30-pound fluorocarbon for float lining.